You know, there's this idea that's practically baked into our cultural DNA, the whole Dumbo's feather concept, right? You hold the feather, you believe you can fly, and suddenly you fly. We see it in medicine all the time.
Oh, yeah. The belief that the mind is this, untapped pharmacy.
Exactly. And if you just believe hard enough in a sugar pill, your body is just going to fix itself.
It's a very romantic notion, isn't it? The power of the placebo.
Yeah.
It suggests we have so much more control over our biology well, than we might actually have. It's comforting.
It is comforting. And I think for a lot of people, it's not just romantic. It's like accepted fact. You hear these stories all the time about people curing everything from warts to cancer just by thinking positive.
Anecdotes, right?
But today we are going to be the buzzkills. We're doing a deep dive into a document that basically takes a sledgehammer to that whole idea.
We're stripping away the anecdotes, yeah. We're looking at a massive systematic review from the Cochrane database. And for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah.
Cochrane it's pretty much the gold standard for medical evidence.
Yes.
Right. The authors are Asbjørn Højartsen and Peter Getche. And they published this huge update in 2010. It's titled Placebo Interventions for All Clinical Conditions.
And just to set the stakes here, because usually when we talk about a study, it's like, oh, they looked at 20 college students. This is not that.
No, not even close. This is a review of 202 different clinical trials. It covers 60 different medical conditions.
Wow.
We are talking about data from thousands and thousands of patients. And the mission of this review was ruthless. They wanted to answer one question. Does the placebo actually heal you?
Or would you have gotten better anyway?
That's it. That's the million-dollar question.
Because that getting better anyway part is the key, isn't it? That seems to be where all the confusion started. Before we even get into the Cochrane numbers, we have to talk about how this whole myth began. I've always heard that number, 35% of people get better on a placebo. Where does that come from?
That number is almost legendary. It comes from a paper published way, way back in 1955 by a guy named Henry Beecher. It was famously titled The Powerful Placebo. Wow. And Beecher looked at a bunch of trials, and he noticed that, on average, about a third of the patients in the control groups, the ones taking the fake pills, said they felt better.
So if I'm Beecher, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, the pill did that. It seems like a logical jump.
It seems logical, but it's a fallacious one.
How so?
He was only looking at patients before and after they took the pill. He wasn't accounting for the fact that, that humans are dynamic biological systems. We don't just stay static.
He was ignoring the natural course of disease.
Exactly that. I mean, think about it. When do you go to the doctor for a bad back or a really nasty cold?
When it's at its absolute worst.
Right.
When I can't get out of bed.
Right. You don't go when you feel fine. You go when the symptoms are at their peak. And statistically, what happens after you hit a peak?
Start to come down, you recover.
It's called regression to the mean. Whether you took a sugar pill, a real drug, or you did absolutely nothing, you were probably going to feel a little better the next day anyway.
Beecher just credited that natural improvement to the placebo. He confused getting better while taking a pill with getting better because of the pill.
You've got it. That's a huge distinction. It's like if I have a cold and I decide to do a rain dance.
And your cold goes away 3 days later.
I'm going to think the rain dance cured me.
But really, your immune system just did its job.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Beecher was crediting the rain dance. So the Cochrane guys, Højartsen and Getche, they knew this was the flaw. To really find the placebo effect, they had to isolate it from that natural recovery.
Okay, so how did they design their review to get around that? Because normally a drug trial is just, drug A versus a placebo.
Right, and that only tells you if drug A works. It doesn't tell you if the placebo works. To measure the placebo itself, you need a 3-arm trial.
Okay, walk us through the 3 arms.
All right, arm 1 is the active drug. For our deep dive today, we're just going to ignore that group. We don't care about the real medicine.
Oh, real stuff is out.
Arm 2 is the placebo, the sugar pill, the saline injection, a sham device, whatever.
And arm 3?
Arm 3 is no treatment.
Just sitting around.
Pretty much standard care, maybe observation, or just being on a wait list. This is the control for, life just happening.
Oh, I see.
By comparing the placebo group directly to the no treatment group, you can subtract out that natural recovery. And whatever's left over, that is the true placebo effect, the effect of the ritual itself.
That makes perfect sense. You're isolating the psychology from the biology. So they ran this filter across 202 trials. What did they find? When you strip away all that natural healing, does the magic hold up?
This is the part that it can be a bit of a letdown. The primary conclusion of the review was that, in general, placebo interventions did not have clinically important effects.
Did not have clinically important effects. That is, wow,
Yeah.
that's stark. I feel like I need to sit with that for a second. We're told our minds are these powerful healing engines.
It's a harsh reality check. When they pooled all the data for what are called binary outcomes, so simple yes-no results like, did the infection clear up?
Yeah.
The relative risk was 0.93.
Okay, I'm not a statistician. What does a 0.93 relative risk look like in the real world?
Well, think of it this way.
Yeah.
A relative risk of 1.0 means the placebo did exactly the same as doing nothing.
Okay.
A 0.93 means there was a tiny, tiny benefit, a slight tilt, but it was so small it was barely distinguishable from doing absolutely nothing.
And this wasn't just for, like, obscure diseases.
No, it's a laundry list of major health issues. They found no statistically significant placebo effect for smoking cessation, dementia, obesity, hypertension, insomnia, even anxiety.
Wait, hold on. Anxiety, insomnia, those feel like the poster children for it's all in your head.
You would think so.
If I believe a pill will calm me down, shouldn't I calm down?
Well, the data shows that while people might report feeling a bit better, it didn't cross that threshold of statistical significance in these huge data sets. It just wasn't a reliable fix. And this gets us to the most critical distinction in the entire review. It's the difference between what a patient feels and what their biology is actually doing.
Subjective versus objective.
Exactly. The researchers split the data into patient-reported outcomes. I feel less pain, I feel less nauseous, and observer-reported outcomes.
So stuff a doctor can actually measure.
Right. Blood pressure, oxygen levels, the size of a tumor, lab tests.
And how did the placebo do on the objective stuff, the stuff you can measure with a ruler or a blood test?
Virtually non-existent. Placebos had no significant effect on observer-reported outcomes.
Wow.
The mind did not trick the body into lowering blood pressure. It didn't shrink tumors. The biology remains stubborn.
That is profound. So if I have an infection and I take a sugar pill, I might tell you, hey, I feel a bit more chipper, but my blood test is going to look exactly the same as the guy who did nothing.
That's the gist of it. The mind over matter effect seems to stop at the barrier of hard biology.
Okay, so it sounds like we're debunking the whole thing. But, and this is the twist, we can't dismiss the placebo entirely. Because while the general effect was weak, the review did find specific pockets where it actually moved the needle.
Right. It's not that the effect is a complete myth. It's just that it's highly specific.
So where does the magic actually live?
Pain and nausea.
That makes sense, I guess. Those are purely subjective experiences. There's no pain-o-meter I can stick in your arm. If you say you're in pain, you're in pain.
Precisely. These are what are called continuous patient-reported outcomes. For nausea, the effect was small, but it was consistent. But pain is where the data gets really dramatic. And this is where we have to talk about the German acupuncture trials.
Yes, I was hoping we'd get to this. This part of the research just blew my mind. It sounds like a thriller novel or something.
It's just really rigorous science. So between 2005 and 2007, researchers in Germany did these 4 massive trials on acupuncture for chronic pain.
Okay.
Specifically back pain, migraines, and knee osteoarthritis. And these were not small studies. They were high quality, very low risk of bias, huge sample sizes.
So to test it, they had to compare real acupuncture to fake acupuncture. How do you even do that?
It's actually quite clever. They use sham needles. Sometimes they're needles that retract into the handle like a stage knife, so they don't actually break the skin.
Oh, clever.
Or they'll insert real needles, but in all the wrong places, spots that have nothing to do with traditional acupuncture meridians.
So you have the real needle group, the fake needle group, and then the no treatment group.
Correct. And the results were staggering. When they compared the fake needle group to the no treatment group, the placebo effect showed a standardized mean difference of negative 0.68.
Okay, you're getting into the stats jargon again. Help me visualize that. Is negative 0.68 a lot?
It's huge. Let's put it on a 100-millimeter pain scale. Imagine a ruler. 0 is no pain, 100 is the worst pain you can imagine.
Got it.
In most of the pill-based placebo trials, where you just take a fake Tylenol or something, the reduction in pain is usually about 3 millimeters.
3 millimeters, that's nothing. That's a rounding error.
You wouldn't even notice it. But in the German acupuncture trials, the placebo effect from the fake needles was equivalent to a 16-millimeter reduction.
Whoa. So getting poked with a fake needle was over 5 times more effective than swallowing a fake pill.
Yes. And more importantly, it cropped the threshold of clinical relevance.
What does that mean?
Well, in pain research, there's a consensus that a 10-millimeter drop is the minimum for a patient to actually say, hey, I really feel better. The pill placebo at 3 millimeter fails that test. The acupuncture placebo at 16 millimeter passes with flying colors.
That is fascinating. Why? Why does a needle work better than a pill if they're both biologically inert? Is it just the drama of it all?
That is exactly what the authors suggest. It's the theater of medicine. The review found that across the board, physical placebos, machines that beat but do nothing, sham surgeries, acupuncture, they all produce larger effects than pills.
It makes sense, though. If you toss me a pill, that's a low-effort interaction. But if I go into a clinic, lie down, the lights are dimmed, and a professional spends 20 minutes tapping needles into my skin.
Your brain is getting a very strong signal.
Yeah, my brain is shouting, something important is happening here.
It's the ritual. The invasiveness seems to signal to the brain that relief must be on the way. The more elaborate the performance, the stronger the effect.
But I have to play the skeptic again. We already established that this stuff only works on patient-reported outcomes. Is it possible these people aren't actually feeling less pain? Is it possible they're just being polite?
And you've hit on a major confounding factor in all of this research: response bias, or as we could call it, the polite patient phenomenon.
I mean, I can just imagine it. This nice German doctor just spent half an hour working on me. He looks at me with hope in his eyes and asks, so, is it better?
What are you going to say?
I'm not going to say, nope, you wasted your time. I'm going to say, yeah, I think I feel a bit looser.
Exactly. The social pressure of that encounter is real. And the review notes that it's incredibly difficult to distinguish a true effect, where the neural pathways of pain are actually dampened from just biased reporting.
So that 16 millimeter reduction might just be social awkwardness?
It's likely a mix of both. We know the brain can modulate pain signals. Endorphins are real. But we can't rule out that a big chunk of it is just people trying to be good patients. But there's one more ingredient that drives this effect, and this one's a bit darker. It's deception.
This is the part of the review that made me really uncomfortable. They looked at how much patients knew about what they were getting, right?
Yes. They compared trials where patients were fully informed versus trials where they were, well, misled.
What does fully informed mean in a placebo trial?
Usually means the consent form says something like, you might get a real drug or you might get a sugar pill. We're not telling you which.
So I know there's a 50-50 chance I'm just eating a Tic Tac.
Right. Compare that to trials where the researchers implied that everyone was getting an active treatment, or they didn't really explain the placebo arm properly. So the patients believed, with high certainty, they were getting real medicine.
Let me guess. The people who were lied to felt better.
Significantly better. The effect size was much higher in the trials that involved that kind of deception.
So, to put it bluntly, the placebo works best when we lie to you.
The data suggests that uncertainty kills the effect. If you know there's a chance it's fake, your brain doesn't fully commit to the healing ritual. Total belief, which is often fueled by a lack of accurate information, seems to be required for that large effect.
That creates a massive ethical mess for doctors. We just established that a 16 millimeter pain reduction is clinically relevant. That's real relief.
It is.
But to get that effect, the doctor has to violate informed consent.
That's the dilemma. And the authors of the review, they take a pretty hard line on this. They conclude that prescribing placebos in clinical practice is ethically problematic.
Because you can't build a medical system on lying to people.
Precisely. Their argument is, since there is no major health benefit, we're not curing cancer or unlocking arteries, and the subjective benefits for things like pain require deception to be meaningful, it's just not worth the cost.
The cost being the erosion of trust.
Right. If you find out your doctor lied to you, even if your headache is gone, are you going to trust them next time when they say you need surgery?
Probably not.
The relationship is the foundation of medicine.
It's a tough trade-off. I can make you feel better, but I have to trick you to do it. And of course, once you know the trick, it probably stops working.
Exactly. And remember, for most conditions, obesity, hypertension, infection, the trick doesn't even work with a lie. So you'd be lying for no reason at all.
That's a really good point. We can't lose sight of that 0.93 number. For most things, it's a dud. So to wrap this all up, where does this leave the power of the placebo? It feels like we've downgraded it from a superpower to maybe a parlor trick.
I think we've right-sized it. The placebo's not a magical force that heals disease. You can't think your way out of a bacterial infection. Biology is biology. The whole mind over matter narrative has just been vastly oversold.
But for the things we experience, pain, nausea, the sensation of illness, the ritual matters, the needle matters more than the pill.
and the belief matters. But unfortunately, that belief seems most potent when it's based on incomplete information or a lie.
Which is the ultimate paradox. I want to leave everyone with a thought to chew on from all this. We live in a world that is obsessed with wellness and the mind-body connection. We want to believe we can control our health with our thoughts. But this data suggests that the mind part only really works if it's genuinely convinced. It requires total surrender to the idea.
It does.
So if the only way to access that relief, that 16-millimeter drop in pain, is for someone to deceive you, is it worth it? Can you ever really be healed if the person doing the healing has to break your trust to do it?
That's a question that goes way beyond the statistics.
Indeed it does. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, let's dive into one of the most fascinating and honestly mysterious forces in all of medicine, the placebo effect. We all kind of think we know what it is, right? But what if I told you that a simple sugar pill could be nearly as powerful as a real drug? Let's find out how that's even possible.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? How can something with 0 active ingredients create a real physical change in our bodies? It's a puzzle that forces us to rethink everything we know about healing, the mind, and the power of belief itself.
So first things first, we've got to throw out that old idea that the placebo effect is just a trick, or that people are just making it up. The science today shows it's a genuine phenomenon. It's not about fooling people, it's about kicking into gear our mind and body's incredible, built-in capacity to heal.
And here's the crucial part. The power isn't really in the sugar pill itself. It's in the context. Think about it, the whole experience. The doctor in a white coat, the sterile environment of a clinic, the reassuring words from someone you trust. All of these things are signals, and they send a powerful message to our brain that says, okay, healing is about to happen.
Now, to see just how incredibly powerful these signals can be, let's look at a really amazing study that was done with migraine sufferers. This is where it starts to get wild.
The results of this study are just wow. Look at the middle of the chart. The patients who took a sugar pill but thought it was a real migraine drug got almost the exact same amount of pain relief as the people who took the real drug but were told it was a placebo. Let that sink in. Our belief about a treatment can be almost as potent as the medicine itself.
And this led the researchers to a pretty stunning conclusion. They said that the information we get about a drug might be just as critical for pain relief as the actual drug. It's a total game changer.
And let's put a hard number on that. Just by telling someone they were getting the real drug, by creating that positive expectation, it boosted the medication's effectiveness by a whopping 50%. That's the power of belief in one single number.
So you have to be asking, how is this even possible? Well, it's not some kind of psychological trick. When you experience a placebo effect, there are real, measurable changes happening inside your brain.
And this is probably the biggest myth we need to bust. It's not all in your head in the sense that it's imaginary. It is in your head in the sense that your brain is basically a pharmacy, and the placebo effect is the key that unlocks its own powerful medicine cabinet.
You know, brain imaging studies show us this happening in real time. Just expecting to get relief can cause your brain to release its own potent chemicals. We're talking about things like endogenous opioids, that's your body's natural version of morphine. It can also trigger dopamine, that reward chemical, plus endocannabinoids and serotonin. These are real biological responses that genuinely reduce pain.
Okay, if you thought that was cool, this is where the science gets truly mind-bending. It turns out that how likely you are to respond to a placebo might actually be written in your DNA.
Scientists have even come up with a new term for this, the placebome. It's basically the collection of genes in your body that can influence how strongly you react to a placebo. So being a placebo responder isn't about your personality. It might be part of your biological blueprint.
So how does this actually work? Well, take the COMT gene, for instance. It helps manage dopamine levels. In a study on irritable bowel syndrome, they found that patients with a specific version of this gene, the MET/MET version, had the strongest placebo response. Meanwhile, those with a different version had the weakest. It's incredible evidence that our own biology plays a huge role here. Now, after hearing about all this amazing power, we have to take a step back for a really important reality check. The placebo effect is absolutely real, but it's not magic. It has very clear limits. So while individual studies like that migraine one can show these really dramatic results, the bigger picture is a little more modest. For example, a huge Cochrane review, which looked at over 200 different trials, found that in general, the effects of placebos are actually pretty small and inconsistent.
And this chart really gets to the heart of what placebos can and cannot do. They have a really big impact on what we call subjective symptoms, things like pain, nausea, fatigue, stuff that's heavily processed by our brain. But when it comes to objective things, like shrinking a tumor or improving your lung function, the effect is basically zero. A placebo can make you feel better, but it's not going to cure the underlying disease. So if the effect is real, but limited, and often relies on a little bit of, well, deception, where does that leave us? This question is leading to one of the most exciting new frontiers in this research, trying to harness the placebo effect. But honestly.
Okay, get this. In some recent studies, doctors told patients straight up, this is a placebo. It's a sugar pill, there's nothing in it. And you know what? For conditions like IBS and even migraine, those patients still felt significantly better. It seems like the ritual of treatment itself is powerful, even when you know there's no active ingredient involved.
And this brings us to a really profound way to reframe this whole thing. Maybe we shouldn't see the placebo effect as some weird quirk we need to get rid of. Maybe it's actually at the very core of what medicine is. It's the measurable effect of care, of hope, of the relationship between a doctor and a patient. It's what makes medicine a healing profession, not just a science. And that leaves us with a really powerful question for the future. If the whole experience of being cared for has the power to heal, then the real challenge isn't about eliminating the placebo effect. It's about understanding it, amplifying it, and using it to help people, ethically and effectively. The power of placebo isn't just about a sugar pill. It might just be the power of healing itself.